Yeah, hi, I'm Michelle Zapata, and like Sarah just said, I work for the Cowboys, and I've been with the team for 10 years. I just got my 10-year ball for my anniversary last Friday. So I've been here a while, and luckily I've been able to work with Ryan for like 8 of those 10 years. So we have a really good dynamic, and that's why when you asked who I wanted to do the podcast with, I knew it would have to be Ryan because we've seen each other through so much that I think we really do understand each other's personalities. But for the team, I do digital signage. I'm the digital signage team lead, and that entails us programming content to various video boards around both facilities, the stadium and the Star, and even some pro shops around the country, and even some out of state, or not the country. Well, yeah, the country. Yeah. A couple in Texas and a few outside. So me and my team, we're just getting that content, making sure it's going everywhere it needs to go, whether it's the 3,000 screens at AT&T Stadium or just a couple screens in the football weight room over here. We're touching everything that has a screen. So that's what I do for the team. And my Enneagram type is 2, and I'm sure that'll be pretty prevalent as we keep going through this.
About what resonates with you when it comes to that type, and then what your role is in the IT department and with the Cowboys organization.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, my name is Ryan Lenocker. I'm the manager of digital signage and our IT event support for the Dallas Cowboys. I've been an employee for 8 years. I was a contractor here for 5 more, and I've been in sports for almost 25 years. So I've been from the minor leagues all the way up to what could be argued as one of the most successful teams in professional sports.
Absolutely.
I've had several careers, like a lot of us of a certain age have gone through, where you're like, all right, I'm done with this. What else? What else appeals to me? So I've been able to use a lot of that life experience to kind of help and coach Michelle along on her journey into management. From just the two of us working all day, basically breaking for lunch to go home or for dinner to go home and say, all right, I'll talk to you later because we're still not done with getting our tasks and responsibilities taken care of for event supports. So that's really bonded us over the years when it really was just the two of us trying to keep all the plates spinning.
Okay. Now, I know that you had said kind of that striving to feel at peace was the one that stood out to you the most with the type 9. What made you feel like, oh, out of all of them, this resonates the most?
On top of the descriptions for a top 9, I'm also a Libra, which also goes directly in. I was like, well, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. This is 100% me. Pretty much just trying to keep everything calm and level. Sometimes I see both sides a little too much. Having Michelle and being a 2, not, I won't say impulsive, but definitely she's ready to jump in. Let's go. Let's get this thing done. I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
Did we consider this, and this? So I've kind of tapped the brakes for her, and she's like, no, make a decision. Let's go. So it's been a good relationship for the both of us.
Okay. And Michelle, what about the type 2, that striving to feel connected, led you to believe, oh my gosh, like this is me. This is how I see this show up in my life and my role.
It's funny. I obviously I'm really close friends with a lot of people in this IT department and in this organization that will hear this and understand it from both personal and my work dynamic here. I really strive, just like 2 says, to feel connected to people, so much so that if there's something that I can work on or help Ryan with, I want to do it. And even this department works with so many other departments. Digital signage touches HR, football operations, external events, our broadcast engineering broadcast engineering team. So I get to meet and talk to so many people to just collaborate with them or help them in any sort of way, which is ideally what I love doing. But it doesn't just stop there within the organization as far as work goes. I also am co-chair of the League at the Star, which is our intramural sports within the entire organization. So I do it with one of my best friends here, Jennifer Johnson, and we co-chair it, and we brought kickball back this year. We had it last year. We get 90 people from the organization who sign up, and we make 6 different teams, and we have 6 weeks long of regular season and then a playoff game. And this is our 3rd year doing it, because it's something that early on back in 2019, my friends were like, we want to play sports, but we don't want to keep doing it in the cities surrounding. Like, why don't we just do it in our organization? So that's how I kind of became chair and co-chair of it. And it's just something I keep doing. And it's so impactful and significant for me, because I get to see 90 other people get to know each other too. Like, I get to know them and I get to watch them get to know each other. And some of the feedback we always get is that people are just so excited to meet new people in the organization that they would never met because their paths don't cross. But that's something that really drives me. And the fact that I get to do it at work, personal, like it's personal and still within the organization, is something that's really important to me. And then outside of work, I mean, any of my friends, you know, connection is something that I want to do. I want to be engaged. I want to have great conversations with everybody. I try to stay connected with most people, not just the best friends, but like even acquaintances. I'll be like, hey, let's get a coffee, let's meet. Connection is super, super big for me.
Okay, that is such a great example of how that 2 energy, that striving to feel connected, shows up. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because sometimes people will think, certain jobs or certain departments will have like more of a certain type. So for example, IT, I think might have like this stereotype that it's like a lot of data, a lot of details. But what I love that you said is like, well, I'm bringing these strengths of connection where we have to work with all these different departments to this IT department. And so it just is another example of, it doesn't matter what type you are, you can be successful in any role when you're leveraging your strengths with intention and for the good of the group. So that was another great. Ryan, I have a question for you. And this is something that I see and I hear a lot, is that when you read these leadership books, a lot of times or you hear about like what makes a great leader. A lot of times it's kind of like this big, bold, sometimes like aggressive energy. And I always love talking to leaders who are not the typical 3 or maybe the typical 8, and learn a little bit, just add some other perspectives to what a great leader looks like. It's not just always that stereotypical kind of, 8s get that reputation, I think sometimes. So I'm curious, what do you see in yourself with that striving to feel at peace, being able to see all sides, that level head, bringing the calmness? How have you seen that be a strength in your leadership journey?
For me, and I've tried to trickle this down to Michelle and then to our team as we've expanded, is you don't have to be the cheerleader out front all the time, which what you're talking about, the 3s, the 8s, or the 2s sometimes. It's okay to let everybody else in the room have a voice. A lot of people just want to be heard, even if they're not at a decision-making level. One of the things, and my wife is a retail district manager, and she's very much a 2. And a lot of the things that she's used, I've tried to adopt those tools into my leadership style as well. And a lot of it is not just giving commands. Nobody wants to be barked at. Nobody wants to be told what to do all the time. A lot of times it's, well, Michelle will bring me a task or a challenge, and the first thing I do is like, well, what do you think we should do? Because that gives you buy-in, that makes you a part of the decision, whether we go with your solution or not. It makes your voice heard, and it makes you feel like you're contributing to the success of the program, the project, whatever you're working on. And if it isn't 100% the direction we want to go, you don't go, oh, that's stupid, we're not doing that. It's, hey, that's a great idea. I don't know that it's going to work for this project. Let's keep that in mind. We have pages and pages of notes written down, digital, stuck in the back of our heads, like, that doesn't work for this solution, but it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. let's keep talking about it, but that might come up again later and we can use that on something else. And that's a lot of stuff that maybe I wouldn't think of, whether it's an experience gap or age or Enneagram type. Michelle brings a whole different skill set to the equation than I bring. And just because I might have more experience in a leadership role doesn't mean I have all the answers. Nobody does. Or this would be easy.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd love to touch on that too, because that's something that's helped me get to where I'm at, and not help me get to where I'm at, not just being a leader now, but it helped me grow professionally in my life altogether, because Ryan always gave me a voice. And we're in meetings and anybody's talking to him and they're collaborating, and then he would always bring me back into a conversation because he knew that that was going to help build my confidence, and that was going to help me feel like he could trust me in my responses. So he would always have a collaboration with someone and then turn to me and go like, well, what do you think? And it let me speak in a room that I didn't know I could speak in. And that gave me so much power in trusting myself too. And Ryan's been a great champion of me through my whole career.
Amazing. Well, they call the leadership style of the type 9 the consensus builder for that very reason. They are wanting to bring people to the table. They're wanting to give people their voices. And to your point, Ryan, like you may not always have the best idea, but just to allow people to be heard makes them want to follow you, like makes them, want to be led by you. So I love that you said, and now you don't have to get too deep. You don't have to get too personal if you don't want to. I'll leave this pretty wide open, but has there been a time between the two of you where there's been a misunderstanding or there's been some conflict and kind of what you're learning about yourself or what you know about yourself and each other? It's like, okay, this is why we might butt heads, or this is why that happened.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I would love to.
See where this
it's really, it's the 9. Sometimes I need more fire out of Ryan to like go up to bat for us in a more fiery way. But his calm nature, and he doesn't want conflict. He doesn't take that approach. And it's not that it's wrong, but it's something that I think I'm looking for from him. Where I think I struggled with that when we first started working together. It just felt like his passion on the same thing I was having passion about wasn't being met. And I found that difficult in making it seem like he didn't care as much as I did, but he did. He doesn't want to take that conflict approach. And so that's actually helped me learn to not be so confrontational too, because I do get real fiery and passionate about things. And so through his 9, it's actually helped me calm down. But I do think that was a struggle for us to start with. And I needed confrontation a lot. He just didn't take that approach. And I've learned a lot to calm down from it. And I think we go into conversations now where we trust each other, and knowing I could be more direct with him and he can with me. Because before I was kind of also in relation to me, when I would make a mistake, I wanted him to say, you messed up. This is why, do better. But he also never took that approach. So I was like, is he mad at me? Is he not mad at me? Did I actually mess up? Did I not mess up? It was hard for me to understand him. But now through our relationship, I do.
No, I just tell you.
Yeah.
That is, and that makes sense with that 9 energy. And, I think sometimes 2s on the surface and initially have this reputation, and I can't remember if we talked about this or not, but like people will think, oh, these 2s are just helping everybody. They're bringing casseroles over. They're stopping on the sidewalk and helping people, and they're just so like helpful. And that may be true, but also 2s can be very fiery as well because they care so much. That passion comes from a place of deep care. And what I hear from 2s is they will talk about, so our listeners know about how each type kind of has 2 resource points that they're connected to. And it's interesting because the 2 has a connection to the type 8. that can be very passionate. And so you can use it as a supportive strategy. Sometimes it can get you in trouble when it's dialed up too much. But that intensity, that passion absolutely shows up for the twos. And I don't know that people always think about that initially. So I'm glad you brought that
Shed a
up.
little bit more light on the why.
Mm.
I've gotten, I won't say used to her, but now that we've gone through this as a team, I mean, it's easy to check the boxes and go, yep, that's Michelle. That's 100% Michelle. Oh, I see why she's like that. Versus accepting each other as a coworker and a friend, and how you work together as a team. Just like, well, that's that's how Sarah is. That's how Michelle is.
Yeah.
This gives a little more of the why, which helps.
Yeah.
Helps understand and go, I see where she's coming from. It's not that she's just had too much coffee today. She's just
Yeah.
well, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes I do have too much coffee. It doesn't help.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
I think, not to point out my weakness here, but going back to your question of how we've had difficulties dealing with each other, is I'm overextending myself a lot, even in the organization. And I'm not just on the kickball co-chair committee. I'm doing another women's, employee research group committee. I'm doing committees inside our department. I'm overextending myself a lot. And it takes, I only have so much of a plate. It does take away from some of my work responsibilities. And as my boss, he's seeing that. And so he's wondering why I'm overextending myself. But now that we have the two, he now could, like he said, understand the why. It's still something we should address, and I should work on my time management. Absolutely. And we've had these conversations, and, I think that's some of the growth that I've had this year is I took a step back from a few of the committees that I was on, so that I wasn't making these misses and mistakes in my work responsibilities, while still being able to still be true to my two and connect with people in one other committee. I just don't need to be in 10 committees. And so that was a difficult conversation I know that we had to have, but he wanted me to refocus myself and be better about time management.
I will say you're not alone. I've heard that from other types too, but from twos, that is a thing. It's that boundaries. And I love what you said. It's like, I don't have to have a hard, like, absolutely, 10 to 0, but it's like, maybe instead of 10, it's like 1 or 2, to your point. So I love that. Whether it's the Enneagram or just any kind of personality, it's like, I don't know, is this steeped in science? Is this astrology? Who's this person going to tell me I am? So I always am curious to know, prior, like, where you were with your own Enneagram knowledge. Like, had you come into it with a little understanding? Were you still trying to figure out how to pronounce it in that camp? And then kind of what questions or skepticism did you have? And then where did you kind of leave after the day or after our time together?
I've been exposed to it a little bit. Again, my wife, with her retail management experience, has been through several different charts and organizations. She's done a lot of the different trainings. My twin daughters went through it through a leadership class, and the three of them are other than that. I was like, "Oh, hold on, I don't know what you're talking about." So I've been exposed to it just a little bit, but not nearly as clearly or in depth as the presentation we got. I was like, oh, okay, now I understand.
Yeah. For me, when we did this originally for IT, it was new to me. A couple of my friends had done it and talked about it, but I wasn't really, had enough detail on each of them. And so we did the questions, and then I got my results back, and I was a 2. And as I was reading it, I was crying in the office because I felt so seen. But then I started to be honest, I started to feel like attacked at the same time, because I was like, wait a minute, I am a lot of this too. But then it was like, when it was going into how to's are difficult for other people, I was like, just feeling like, wow, that really hurts. And knowing how twos retaliate when they aren't feeling connected, when they aren't feeling like they're getting appreciation, I was like, man, twos kind of suck, and I don't like how. And is this me? And then I was really conflicted. But then as I kept reading it and talking about it with people, I was like, oh, okay, like, it's not as bad as I felt the first time. Like, this is starting to make a lot of sense. And so when we met at the retreat, I was just so excited to learn more about it because I felt so secure in being a two and accepting the good things and the bad things and all of that, because I talked to my friends about it and even talked to people at work about it. So I was hurt at first, but then realized that it was okay.
And we don't have to like name names or specific situations, but has there been any other ahas about your work relationships or maybe your role in other relationships now that you kind of understand, oh, this is what I'm really great at, this is what I bring to the table? And to your point, Michelle, like, oh, this is like when it's turned up too high, this is how that impact might affect somebody. Or wow, this person's really turned up and they're kind of getting under my skin, and now I understand why that is. Any ahas or kind of other relationships you've been able to better navigate now that you have this awareness?
Yeah, I have some. I'll go.
Okay.
What we talked about too on the retreat was and it might have been the twos, it could have been the sevens, I don't remember, but I think it was the twos, wanting to be connected. And so when I'm in a meeting, and before it starts, I'm like, hey, how was your weekend? What did you do? Like, and I'm trying to talk to people at work and connect with them. And there are people around the room who are like, I don't want to talk to you about my weekend. And I think learning that I was doing it for that reason and not being able to recognize someone didn't want to talk, I think I learned that better now after our conversation of just like, let people divulge what they want to, and I need to do a better job of reading and not trying to like pull it out of them. If they want to talk, they'll talk. If they don't want to, that's okay too. Because I would feel personally attacked, like, oh, why don't they want to share their weekend with me? What's wrong? I'm just trying to be nice. Like, why don't they want to talk about it? But learning it's not personal. It's just somebody isn't as willing to be as open as I am. So learning that, especially in the office dynamic when I'm going into a meeting, has been really helpful.
Eights, figuring out eights. When we broke out into our numbers, our primary numbers, and we saw the table of eights and we talked through it, I'm like, oh, again, it was that understanding that why, putting that light on that, and that they're not just demonstrative bullies. So it's, I'm in charge, this is what we're doing, get on board. Well, there's a little bit of that. I mean, you'll get that with regardless of what your number is. But that wasn't where they were coming from, not all the time. And understanding that has definitely helped quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a really interesting pairing, the 8 and the 9, because there's so many things that seem to be almost opposite. And that can be very challenging. But then to your point, it can also be such a great synergy. It can be such a great relationship where you balance each other out. And then it's just kind of understanding, oh, they're not doing this with malice or bad intent, and working together. And Michelle, I want to piggyback off what you said. That is such a simple thing. The how was your weekend? How was your vacation kind of question. But that continues to be like one of the top ahas in all of these groups, is just understanding like who wants to have that conversation and who doesn't. And who can I have that conversation with? And who might I be overwhelming, or vice versa. And on the flip side of that, sometimes the question is, okay, well, how can I add in more time? Because I know that for Michelle, she wants this. And so it's just a little thing, but it can mean so much to a relationship. I appreciate the two of you opening up a little bit on a podcast about your personality and your relationship. I know that that's not always the most comfortable, so I appreciate you. People always learn so much from hearing about how you experience it, whether they can see themselves in a 2 or a 9 and say, oh my gosh, yep, that's me. Or it's like, oh, I get this. So I appreciate that. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about today that you would like to add that would maybe make this interview feel more complete?
Miss Two?
No, I think you had great questions. I think you did a wonderful job.
Oh. That I love that about the twos. They're always hyping me up, hyping us all up, making us feel good. Well, I appreciate it. we will get your LinkedIn links, your LinkedIn links. And so if anybody wants to just say thank you or drop you a note, we'll do that. And with that, I appreciate it. And I hope to see you all again sometime soon.
Of course. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for having us on.